Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Okay. Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Socratic Seminar slash writing. Uh, what's the word?
Seminar. Socratic Seminar Writing
Seminar.
Lab.
Yeah. So to start off with, we're going to start with this question. What do you think about AI? What are your general impressions or concerns? What do you guys think?
You can start, yeah. And speak up because Chloe's got to hear you.
The artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm for artificial intelligence. I believe that out of the articles we've read, that's really I'm for the agreement.
Okay.
Not against it.
All right. Maybe you'll have some reasons by the time we finish today. Chloe, what about you?
I couldn't hear exactly what you said. Can you repeat it, please, Mrs. Campbell?
He's saying that he's for it. He just is not quite sure why yet. He's read the articles, but he's left with the impression that it's a good thing, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just make sure
Good.
I've got the gain up. You may want to move right there. Okay. He's moved over a little bit. So,
okay.
Chloe, what do you think?
I haven't gotten that far into the module, so I don't really know a whole bunch about it, but I think it's a positive move for the future, and that it could bring a lot of good things, but it could also have a negative impact.
Okay.
Yeah. Most things are like that, aren't they? They have two sides.
Well, they have more than that. I know that for me, this is something that actually has been around a lot longer than people realize. I mean, a lot of the science fiction movies in the 50s and 60s and even into the 70s, they're all about machines learning to be smarter because humans have programmed them that way. But to me, I'm kind of the philosophy that, well, there's always the off button. You know, we can turn the stuff off. I won't have an Alexa in my house at all. Or Google Assistant. I'm having a hard enough time with Google Assistant knowing everything. But yeah, I won't do Alexa. No Siri for me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't want that in my house. I do have a friend who has a Google something or other in her house, and all she has to do is say, Google, what is the capital of Minnesota? And it'll tell her. It just speaks out loud. And it's so weird. It's like she's living in the Jetsons world or something, And, but I generally am, right now at least, against artificial intelligence, primarily because I feel like it's taking, or it has potential to take away lots of jobs from people who need them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, what are some areas in which you think AI may be of some use in the future? What do you think, you guys?
Speak up. You're gonna have to speak. Okay, he's gonna gather his thoughts first.
Okay.
It's okay. Just speak normally. What is it called? When what?
You know that they have robots that produce large amounts of anything what is happening with that AI first. That's what
Mass production of things.
Mass production.
Yes, mass production. Yeah. And in fact, I'm pretty sure, I don't know how Amazon works. I know that the Amazon has the distribution centers, but it seems ridiculous that whatever I want, I can have it in a day or two. You know, how is it possible that I could place this order and all of this stuff gets packed? Is it a person doing it? Is a machine doing it? Obviously, a machine's, addressing it, labeling it, and getting it ready to send out. But um, it can do a lot of things a lot faster than we can.
From what I understand, Amazon actually has some kind of algorithm working behind the scenes that predicts what you're going to buy, and they send those products to a distribution center near you. And
Oh, that's creepy.
so they have them ready for you. That's how you can get it so quickly.
That's creepy. I don't even.
Isn't that insane? I know. Isn't that crazy?
Because I don't even really know what it. Let's take an example. Last night they were showing The Outlaw Josie Wales, and my husband loves Clint Eastwood. And I got into the movie. I started watching it, but then I got tired, and I'm thinking I have got to go to bed. So I said, I know, let's go and I'll order from Amazon, see how much the DVD is. Well, it was $8. So I placed the order, and it's supposed to come. Well, it'll come tomorrow. Are you telling me that Amazon can read my mind? That's freaky.
No, I'm not saying that, but it is kind of creepy how you can get it in one day, isn't it?
Yes. Very.
Yeah. I know.
Chloe, what do you think about that? About question 2?
I don't know. I feel like it would help, like that. I forgot his name. I'm sorry, but I think it would help speed up production. It might lower rates for. I don't know how to make it sound smart, but I feel like it would lower the cost of employers to hire employees. I feel like it would save them money over time. But on the other hand, I feel like it would also cause a lot of unemployment rates.
Okay. That way she knows who you are.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. It seems like there always is a downside. Okay, so the following is from in Silicon Valley, tech startups use robots to revolutionize pizza business. This is from the article. The article is about a company, Zoom Pizza, that is using robots to help make their pizza. And this quote is from Alex Garden, who's one of the co-founders of Zoom Pizza. And basically what it says is, we're going to eliminate boring, repetitive, dangerous jobs, and we're going to free up people to do things that are higher value, said Alex Garden, the co-founder of Zoom Pizza. So, is the above quotation euphemistic? There's this fancy word, euphemistic. It comes from the word euphemism. A euphemism is basically a statement that is really bad that's made to sound good. So like the term friendly fire, which is used in the military, it doesn't sound so bad, right? Friendly fire. But what that really is when one of your own guys accidentally shoots you. And so you can see that euphemisms are basically statements that are bad that make it sound good. So it's this statement that he makes. We're going to eliminate boring, repetitive, dangerous jobs, and we're going to free up people to do things that are higher value. Is that euphemistic? If so, why? If not, why not? What do you guys think?
Landon's passing to you, Chloe.
I think it's euphemistic because it's not telling both sides of the story. It's really just giving a brief overview about the positives of what AI could do, and it's not really getting into the negative at all.
What would be the negative in this case?
The unemployment, how they're eliminating all the boring, repetitive, dangerous jobs. Well, there's people working those jobs, and they need money too. They need a way to make a living.
Yeah, good point. And notice the language is being used here. The word boring, the word repetitive, the word dangerous. I mean, when we talk about words, we talk about diction, and this diction, the word diction comes from dictionary, And this diction, this word choice, is definitely very negative. I mean, these are loaded words that are really meant to present something very negatively, which is these jobs. And you know, I just I just think that this is euphemistic because, like you said so well, um, the statement is meant to make those jobs sound so bad.
And
so
we are already in this mode. Um, we're now starting to add what's called 21st century skills. And in fact, in our own job with the online hybrid classes, we have to make sure that our students know how to work the technology. And this is the very reason why, because these, quote, boring, repetitive, dangerous jobs, end quote, are being taken over by machines. And so the only jobs that are going to be available are people who can work with the technology. And so what education is now moving towards is teaching kids how to use the technology, how to manipulate it. I'm actually quite impressed that we have a lot of students at ROC right now who are learning how to make apps. They design apps, they can create apps, and how much of our world now is driven by these different applications. So I think we're already here.
yeah, that's a good point. Um, and also, the technology is changing so quickly that it seems like it's going to be there are going to be people who are educated in this changing technology who are always going to have jobs as teachers, teaching other people how to use it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We automate those. Here's another quote from the other co-founder of Zoom Pizza. We automate those repetitive tasks so that we can spend more money on higher quality ingredients. By Julia Collins Zoom Pizza. Do you think that's all there is to it? Or is it a matter of preventing injuries to employees and avoiding workman's comp issues? You know, these two founders, they're leaders that I used to coach. They can come up with anything. They can come up with something positive about anything. I mean, you give them nuclear war, they would come up with some positive outcome. So,
well, here's what I want to know. Okay, so this pizza company is going to be able to buy higher quality ingredients. But we would hope that these higher quality ingredients are going to be, like fruits and vegetables that are grown and picked fresh, and the cheese is coming from healthy cows and all like that. There are people who grow those and farm those, and to me, those are the repetitive, dangerous jobs that people don't get credit for. And I would hate to think that part of this machination of what our lives are would not include this. And so I'm thinking some of these jobs are really necessary, even though you're right. I would not want to go out and pick tomatoes. That would not be something fun for me. But there are people who go out there and do it, and they make sure that they make sure that the products you get are good quality. So to me, this is rather hypocritical, almost.
yeah, yeah. And this quotation is one that comes from the heels of, or right before this one. Notice that this quotation says, there will always be a model here at Zoom where robots and humans work together to create delicious food. There's this word, gimmick. Have you guys ever heard this word before, gimmick?
Yeah. Not,
yeah. Yeah. So a gimmick is basically like a trick of business. to get your attention for their product. So, is this a gimmick? This whole idea of robots creating pizza? I mean, would you, if you lived there, would you go to Zoom Pizza to get your pizza because it was made by a robot?
Yeah.
You
What
would,
do you guys
Landon?
think?
I would.
Why would you?
Different.
Yeah.
Such as
Would you go and watch it being done?
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I think it's that same fascination with Krispy Kreme donuts. You sit there and watch them make the donuts. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
So, you know, I said this last time, and I got a funny response. But if a fly landed on your food that the robot was making, do you think the fly would throw it away and get a new sample of food to make that was clean, or do you think you would just like put the pepperoni on top of the fly and just cook your pizza? I don't know,
What do you
but
think, Landon?
Crazy.
Crazy?
If that's crazy. That's true.
Although I
but
think that is a program that could be put in. But if there's flies in this restaurant, that's got other problems other than its robots.
yeah, no doubt. Zoom teacher says it won't eliminate any current human-filled jobs, but it will just move those people who are currently employed to new locations as they open them. Does this really have the effect of deleting jobs? What do you guys think?
Chloe, what do you think?
I think that again they're sugarcoating it and moving people to new locations as they open them. That gives me the idea that they don't have any new locations and that these people are going to be unemployed until then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Louder, Landon.
you know,
You're not
yeah,
a talking person. Landon says he's not a talking person. The thing is, that's what we do here.
but
I
you
thought
know,
it's
if Zoom
impossible.
Pizza moves the current employees to new locations, they're not really hiring any more employees when they open new locations. They're just keeping the same amount of employees, and they're peopling their restaurants with robots that might as well be slaves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they might as well be human slaves who get paid nothing for their work, although they're cheaper than slaves because they don't require food and water. You know, they might require some adjustment from the mechanic every few weeks or whatever, but I'm sorry. I guess I'm a little biased. Do you think? Um, Co-founder of BeastRobot, Jay Rappert, said about using robots that it's quicker, or quote, it's quicker, it's cheaper, it's more consistent, and it's this really fun experience to share with people. Okay? So, what's the question you might have for Mr. Rappert? What do you think, Chloe?
I don't know.
What?
Okay, well, one
That's the
question.
bottom question down there. So he says that it's. Whoops, you went far. It's quicker, it's cheaper, it's more consistent, and it's this really fun experience to share with people. Having the robots make the pizza. What do you think, Landon?
You know, a question I would have is, are the savings being passed on to customers? If it's so much cheaper, are the customers benefiting from this, or are the top brass in the company keeping the profit of having these robots work for them? And my guess, of course, I don't know for a fact, but my guess would be that the savings are not being passed on to the customer. The savings are being kept by the top brass of the company to probably build more beast robots.
Mm-hmm. And if they are saying it's cheaper, uh, you'd have to prove that. You would have to prove it by offering a cheaper product, but still, cheaper does not always mean better.
That's right. And another question might be, how many human employees are not hired because of your bot?
Mm-hmm.
So Ken Goldberg, UC Berkeley's automation lab director, said, there are so many jobs in food service that are so complex that it will be a very long time before we have robots doing them. Now, notice what he doesn't say, and notice what he says. He basically says that this is not a denial that robots can do these jobs. He says it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time until robots are going to be doing these jobs that currently young people do, like
work at
jobs
McDonald's,
at fast food,
mm-hmm.
working at a grocery store. You know what? It's not really artificial intelligence, but have you noticed how many like self-checkouts there are in grocery stores now?
Mm-hmm. Even at fast food places. Have you been
Yeah.
McDonald's? Have you been to one that has that? Have you ordered that way, or did you go up to the counter?
Yeah.
You did use it? Was it fun? Simple? Easy? Yeah, I have to admit, sometimes you get somebody checking you out that's really annoying, but I prefer the human touch. I prefer saying hi to somebody or something, and it did bother me when I went to it's the one out on Real Road by the freeway, and I'm watching what is transpiring, and I'm thinking, this is really sad. It's sad that people aren't interacting with each other. They're interacting with technology, and I don't know. I like the human touch myself.
Yeah, so do I. Someone in my family disagrees with me about that. They would rather use the self-checkout any day. I would rather go to a checker and say, hey, how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks a lot for, checking out my food. And, I'd rather interact with someone. Yeah, can I have about 3 bags or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just going to this, I don't know, sterile self-checkout.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really artificial intelligence, at least not yet, but who knows?
Yeah.
Okay. So this next portion is from the article called Elon Musk, Artificial Intelligence May Be More Dangerous Than
It's
You.
one with the big headline. It's fun. There
The above statement from Mr. Musk is extreme, but does he have the ethos to say such a thing and be taken seriously? Well, here is some of his background. He sold his first bit of computer code at 12 years of age. He sold his first software company for $300 million to Compaq. He sold PayPal to eBay. He owns Tesla Motors, and he owns SpaceX. So do you think when he says that artificial intelligence may be more dangerous than nukes, that he knows what he's talking about, or you think he's just some kook who shouldn't be saying things like that? What do you think, Chloe?
I think both.
Yeah? Okay, can you say a little more about that?
Because, just because somebody has knowledge and experience in something doesn't mean that they're always going to be all there. There's people out there who are, really smart, just being put together, and they think that, the earth is flat or something. Yes, you may have experience, and you can be taken seriously, but at the same time, you can't just take everything seriously whenever it comes from a person just because they have experience.
So you're looking at this from what you might call a well-balanced perspective. Landon, what do you think?
I think that even knowing that Elon Musk is for artificial intelligence, he does say that in this article that needs to be supervised, and that even knowing that that it just needs to be overall like well supervised and watched over athletes.
Okay. So, what would be a scenario, do you think, that could make AI more dangerous than you? Does one exist? Can you imagine one?
Like misfunctioning, maybe?
Yeah. Right. If there's a glitch. In fact, that happened a few years ago in New York. There was a power failure actually in Canada. It was a transformer that blew in Canada and took out all of the panel in New York City and all that Upper East Side. And that shut the entire city down just because they didn't have power. And so if we are, in fact, that was what the Y2K business was all about. They hadn't thought about programming computers that go beyond the 4 digits. And so when it turned 2000, then computers they thought were going to revert back to 1000, and then everything kind of went out of proportion. So that fear is there. And I do think to some extent that we do have tendency to put too much into our dependence on technology. And so if it were to suddenly disappear, I think a lot of people would be lost.
Yeah, I remember that movie called Future Shock, and it was about how if you took someone from years ago and placed them into the future without any transition, they would be in complete shock into what the future was.
Yeah.
So that same thing would be true if we went backwards and suddenly all of our technology had vanished and we wouldn't know what to do. Okay, this is from the Business of Artificial Intelligence, what it can and cannot do for your organization. And this says that AI is the most important general purpose technology of our era. The machine's ability to keep improving its performance without humans having to explain exactly how to accomplish all the tasks is given. Basically, we can now build systems that learn how to perform tasks on their own. What do you think of this fact? And if you were to look ahead into the future in 1,000 years from now, what do you think you'd see? What do you guys think about that?
I think that AL would like completely take over any sort of, like how you said, that's like human beings related employees. Like for example, like how Elon Musk is a creator or the founder of Tesla. That's like that they would be used for like fast cars. Like everything would be like all like this one program.
Right. And hovering and yeah. I see a possibility. This is a really old, and I'm dating myself, really old science fiction movie called Logans Run. It's really interesting to watch, and it's so 70s. But the whole idea there was they had this perfect bubbled society, and they could have anything they wanted, and there was, they had all the food they needed, and they had all the joy they wanted. The problem is that they always killed people off at the age of 30 because that's when your body starts breaking down, and so they would have what's called renewal, and that they thought that they would just start over again. They'd just live a new life again. And that's kind of what, if we lose the human connection, I think that's kind of what it's going to be like, is that we're not going to have deep meaning in our lives. Everything will be superficial. Everything will be too easy. And I don't think we'll have the ability to really talk to one another. I mean, I know that social media has helped people reach out and talk to other people, but I think it's also isolated people at the same time. And it could just be because I've always been a people person. I love talking to people. But there are others who, this is how they can express themselves. But I don't know. I'm just glad I'm not going to be around in 1,000 years to find out what's happening.
Yeah, I agree with you about that. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but maybe I'm a little pessimistic. I don't know. But you were talking about social media, and that reminded me of cell phones, and that reminded me of an article that I read some time ago that was about a law that had to be passed in a town or city because people were looking at their cell phones as they were walking across the street at a crosswalk instead of looking up for cars that were coming, and women were pushing their baby carriages out in streets where cars were coming because they were too busy, they were too occupied with their cell phones to even pay attention to what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one example of what technology has given us.
Yeah. What do you think, Landon? You have this doubtful look on your face because you like AI. This is a good thing, right? Yeah. And so, any of these scenarios, you think people are just making much ado about nothing? Or are there real concerns?
Yeah, like there's some stuff regarding AI, and yeah, it is a big thing to outcomes of it, like the negative and the positive, and like the positive outcome of it would be that it's helping people to make it easier, but the negative would be that it is causing like well when I went to, for example, like when I went to national school, it was constant. So it's causing all the teachers and stuff. I feel like it's more like a distraction.
Yeah. And I agree with you, but I think that's also the human condition. Anybody who has too much of any good thing, that's a bad thing. And this is probably just another one of those cases where if we do rely on it too heavily, we're going to get into problems with
it. Yeah. Have you ever seen Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of the Borg.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the Borg from. Yeah, but
we are Borg.
They were all connected. Yeah, they were all connected to some kind of central intelligence. And, crazy. Okay, here's the next thing. Can you explain Polynice paradox? Do you guys remember that from the reading?
That is in that article, and I think it's on nope, the one that one. And I think it's on the second or third page. Flip it back. Just scan for that Polynice paradox. Is it on the second one?
I don't know where it is exactly.
We found it earlier today. I should have marked it, but you haven't found it yet. Maybe you should go ahead and here, pass it over to me.
Explain it?
Yeah.
Okay, Polynice paradox is that humans can do much more than they can explain how to do something. Like, for example, Polynice paradox says that humans just innately can recognize faces, whereas you wouldn't know how to explain to someone how to recognize a face because we just do it innately. We do it without thinking about it. And so that's one difference between us and machines, is that machines don't do things innately. They have to be programmed to do things systematically. And so we're much more complex than machines are in that way, and that we have some innate intelligence built into us that allows us to do things that we can't even explain how we do them. But another example he gave was riding a bicycle. Like, how can you possibly explain to someone how to ride a bicycle, how to balance, how to do all that stuff. You just have to experience it and do it, and then we don't know how we do it. We just do it. But are you going to say something, Mrs. Campbell?
Yeah, I'm looking at this because you realize that machines already do this. If it weren't for the Apple iPhone, and now I think with the Samsung, there's several phones out there that can do face recognition to unlock them. It's been programmed. There's also the technology that they have been able to get robots to ride bicycles. It's been programmed. A lot of it has to do with how they've been programmed, and I'm always amazed because my mom went and learned how to do basic computer programming, and gosh, all the terms are slipping my mind now because there's 3 different ways. There's DOS, there's the basic language DOS, there was another one. And I had my own little experience trying to program. And it's every little detail that is so important. And now the apps that are created, the software is created, is so highly advanced. And I honestly don't know how it's done, but I know it is done. And so when this paradox was created in 1964, obviously at that point we're still with the single line by line programming. But I think now, whatever that advancement is, I don't think this paradox. I think it's been disproven, actually.
That may very well be, because like there is. I think we're going to get to this in the presentation, but there is an app right now that you can get on your cell phones that can identify every bird that's in the wild correctly, and that's just one area of growth of technology.
Yeah.
So the term artificial intelligence was coined by John McCarthy, math professor at Dartmouth. In 1997, a computer beat the best chess player. Now computers beat the best poker players and Go players. I don't think there's any more of a poker face than a computer screen, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So what do you think computers and robots will be able to do in the future? I said this earlier at the 9 a.m. session, but my wife recently had gallbladder surgery, and she chose not to have the robot operate on her, although it was an option. The robot actually does the surgery, and the surgeon just assists and watches. She chose to actually have a man operate on her with his flesh and blood, fingers, and all that, but she wasn't ready to jump into the 21st century yet, I guess, but
well, you can't sue a computer.
That's true. Good point. But yeah, so, and the surgery did really well. I mean, like what you were saying before, because of the advances in technology, it only took 20 minutes to do a gallbladder surgery, whereas before it took like a long time.
Yeah.
So there are these advances in 2 broad areas. There's the advance of cognition and the advance of perception in machine learning. And so, for example, like I said before, there's a smartphone app that can correctly identify any bird in the wild. And this is a big improvement in image recognition. And how much more would it take for AI to recognize a human face? Well, it's doing that now. I mean, we have, I heard from someone that in China now what's going on is if you jaywalk, a camera in society will take your picture, directly identify your face, and then automatically put your image on a shaming website to shame you in front of all your neighbors, showing that you're a jaywalker. So,
and welcome to 1984 and George Orwell and Oceania.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I mean, it's interesting that when you take this kind of tool like high technology and you put it in the hands of the people who have the power in society, that they don't use it in worse ways. But
right.
Yeah. So, and then cognition is problem solving, and computers and AI are actually working right now to make trades on Wall Street to optimize inventory at Amazon, and this results in greater revenue. And they think that soon, if not now, AI is helping to diagnose cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are all these different things that are happening as a result of AI, which are maybe some of the reasons that AI is really a good thing. So machine learning systems are trained to do specific tasks, and typically their knowledge does not generalize. Can you say what you said early on in our ramble about this?
Oops, we've lost your presentation.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I need to see that to remember what I said.
Okay.
I think you just need to share the screen again.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
But for some reason, it's not working. Let me see. Share. Well, it's not working.
Oh dear.
And I don't know how to make it work.
Okay, let me put it back on, and I'll
share.
share from mine. So let me go to Drive and shared with me. See, there's how many years have we been doing this, and there is not one seminar that has not gone 100% smoothly. So this is why we worry about technology, not for artificial intelligence, but just because
That's right.
something will go wrong. There's just too many parts to it.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why I would not get a Tesla car, because there's just too many things that would not work on it. So
yeah, some of them are catching on fire. Have you heard?
Yes, I did. I have. Yep. Not surprised. Okay, it's running slow. Shared with me. Okay. And, there it is. Okay. I got it. Okay. Have you fixed it? Oh, no. Okay, so it's coming up, and then I've got to share it.
What's weird is I see two Chloes now. Maybe I'm seeing double vision, but
there are two Chloes.
Two Chloes.
Chloe, are you on two devices right now?
No, I'm only on one. I don't know why it's so weird.
This is so weird.
Let this be a lesson to everybody about artificial intelligence. Yeah, because my internet has gone kablooey. Actually, I think we're probably lucky we even have a conversation. Okay, can you what are you looking at again to remind me of what I said?
I'm looking at cognition, problem solving, trades on Wall Street, diagnosing cancer.
The microbots.
It was ML systems are trained to do specific tasks, and typically their knowledge does not generalize. And you said you think it does. You remember what you said? I thought that was really good what you said.
You should be able to see now coming up. Can you see your presentation now? If you look at down at mine.
If I look down at yours, I see the presentation.
Yay. Okay, just click on that, and it will pop up the full thing here. Okay.
I can't do that. It's not working. But what I'll do is I'll just look at mine. Oh, there it is. I see it.
All right. What page are we on?
I don't. About halfway down, where it says cognition in red.
Okay. I'm stuck in Robbie. Robbie will go away. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. There we go.
Okay.
It's running really slow. Okay. Oh, was this about how I had uh I was looking for a hotel room. I have my husband's cousin, her dad died, and we had to go to Taft. They had to drive from Arizona to take care of all of this. And so I had to get I was having a Facebook Messenger conversation with her. And they were going to stay in Palm Springs on their way back. They needed to rest because they'd had a long time driving. It was a horrible long weekend. Anyway, so I said, I'll help you out. And so I had this conversation. Then I went to hotels.com just to find a hotel room for them to stay in. And the next thing I know, I've got running through Facebook, running through the games I've played. All of a sudden, it's great places to stay in Palm Springs. It's also about, there were all kinds of little things that I hadn't even mentioned in the conversation that all of a sudden I'm getting sold what the machine thinks I know in all these different applications. And so when we allow in Google, anytime you download an app and you say, do you allow Google to do this? And if you don't press it, you don't get the whatever it is. And that's how it's doing it. It's taking all the resources from all these different programs, and the algorithms are able to come together. And I'll tell you one thing, I already got a car. You would think by now that it would stop giving me all these new car deals. I have a car now. I picked the one I wanted, but it won't stop, and I need to fix my algorithm. So that's why I think, yes, there is cognition there, certainly, yes.
Yeah. You're not the only one who has talked about things like that. I have a neighbor who says that whenever she mentions something like a camera or a barbecue, she'll get all kinds of advertisements about those things. If she says frisbee, she'll get advertisements for frisbees and frisbee parks. It's just crazy. She said when she had this conversation with her husband now, they put their cell phones in the microwave and close the door so they can have a conversation without talking, without being overheard.
Yep, that's a possibility.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm looking at my presentation and I see your presentation too. The following is about Robbie. What about the opening scene of Robbie that follows is somewhat creepy? Do you find anything creepy about the opening scene that I'm going to read to you guys? I'm going to read this, and Mrs. Campbell can
I'll scroll.
Sort of scroll on. 98, 99, 100. Gloria withdrew her chubby little forearms from before her eyes and stood for a moment, wrinkling her nose and blinking in the sunlight. Then, trying to watch in all directions at once, she withdrew a few cautious steps from the tree against which she had been leaning. She craned her neck to investigate the possibilities of the clump of bushes to the right, and then withdrew far as to obtain a better angle for viewing its dark recesses. The quiet was profound, except for the incessant buzzing of insects and the occasional chirrup of some hardy bird braving the midday sun. Gloria pouted. I bet he went inside the house, and I told him a million times that that's not fair. With tiny lips pressed together tightly and a severe frown crinkling her forehead, she moved determinedly toward the two-story building up past the driveway. Too late, she heard the rustling sound behind her, followed by the distinctive and rhythmic clump of Robbie's metal feet. She whirled about to see her triumphing companion emerge from hiding and make for the home tree at full speed. Gloria shrieked in dismay. Wait, Robbie, that wasn't fair, Robbie. You promised you wouldn't run until I found you. Her little feet could make no headway at all against Robbie's giant stride. Then, within 10 feet of the goal, Robbie's pace slowed. Robbie's pace slowed suddenly to the nearest of crawls, and Gloria, with one final burst of wild speed, dashed pantingly past him to touch the welcome bark of home free first. Gleefully, she turned on the faithful Robbie, and with a basis of ingratitude rewarded him for his sacrifice by taunting him cruelly for a lack of running ability. Robbie can't run, she shouted at the top of her 8-year-old voice. I can beat him any day. I can beat him any day. She chanted the words in a shrill rhythm. Robbie didn't answer, of course, not in words. He pantomimed, running instead, inching away until Gloria found herself running after him as he dodged her narrowly, forcing her to veer in helpless circles, little arms outstretched and fanning at the air. Robbie, she squealed, stand still, and the laughter was forced out of her in breathless jerks. So, what's one thing that you find creepy about that? Is there anything that you find creepy about that? If there is, what is it? What do you think, Chloe?
How the robot promised that he would do multiple things and he didn't keep his word on it.
Hey, interesting. Yeah, she kept telling him, don't go into the house, and she told him a million times, don't go into the house, and he would still go into the house and do that. Yeah. So that's an example of AI, right? Of machine learning, of where machines can make their own decisions for themselves. What else? I know Mrs. Campbell brought up a really good point last time.
Well, it's the way Gloria is responding to this robot, in that, especially when it's pretty obvious that the robot let her win, which is kind of a problem when you're raising children. I think if you constantly let them win, and they don't learn how to lose socially, they can get very angry at it. And then when I've lost it now. Where did it go? So you've got the faithful Robbie. She turns to him with the basest of ingratitude. That sounds so snarky. Rewarded him for his sacrifice by taunting him cruelly for a lack of running ability. Robbie can't run. I can beat him any day. That's not really teaching good social skills. It's she's this is kind of spoiling her, and I think this really is why we call it spoiling, is that now she's expecting to have her way all the time, and I think that's what technology kind of does to us, and especially when kids are saying, "I have to have a phone," and the parent says, "You don't have to have a phone." I do. I have to have a phone. What if something happens at school and I need to get in touch with you? Well, they have phones at school. Yeah, but what if you need to get in touch with me? I know the school's phone number. It's that kind of thing. But they think that they need all of this, and I think this is the same thing with her. And I think by that race notices this, and I think this is what her real problem with all of the all that Robbie does for her.
Yeah, that's a great point. I wish I would have thought of that. I was thinking of something else. I was thinking that Robbie is just so fast, he could outrun probably a grown adult. I mean, it talks about his giant strides and how quick he is and how easily he dodges Gloria. He's just toys with her. I mean, it would be easy to um, like turn him into a fighting robot, wouldn't it? I mean, to turn him into something that you might see in the Terminator, um, because he has these amazing physical abilities. And even at the end of the story, when he saves Gloria, he does it at this blinding speed that no human could achieve. And even though he saves her, still there's this question in my mind, like, yeah, he did a good thing, he saved her life, but what really is he? You know, I mean, is there a potential for him to go berserk and to use that power that he has for evil? So, so here's my question to you at the end of this. Which one of the following would you be more like? Would you be more, or here's the question I have for you for the following reading. Which one would you be more like, George or his wife, Grace? So here's I'm going to read this now. You listen to me, George. I won't have my daughter entrusted to a machine, and I don't care how clever it is. It has no soul, and no one knows what it may be thinking. A child just isn't made to be guarded by a thing of metal. Weston frowned. When did you decide this? He's been with Gloria 2 years now, and I haven't seen you worry till now. It was different at first. It was a novelty. It took a load off me, and it was a fashionable thing to do. But now I don't know. The neighbors. Well, what have the neighbors to do with it? Now look, a robot is infinitely more to be trusted than a human nursemaid. Robbie was constructed for only one purpose, really, to be the companion of a little child. His entire mentality has been created for that purpose. He just can't help being faithful and loving and kind. He's a machine made so. That's more than you can say for humans. So, do you think you'd be more like George or more like Grace, his wife,
Grace.
in this passage?
You would do Grace too?
Yeah, I'd love Grace.
Really? That surprises me. Is it what?
Only because it's like it's a kid.
I
feel like only because like he had like he sort of gets like better attached to play.
Yeah.
And everything, but you still never know what could happen.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
That's interesting. How about you, Chloe?
I don't think the robot would do anything to harm the girl, but at the same time, I would probably be more like his wife.
Okay, why is that?
Because when she says, I won't have my daughter entrusted to a machine, that really hits me, and it makes me realize, like, the kid needs to grow up normal. She can't just be playing with robots all her life. She needs to have normal human interactions.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I agree. And I have a niece, a grandniece actually, and I think she's 6 now, but this happened about a year and a half ago. We had gone to visit the family, and she had her mother's iPad. And I sit and watch the girl find an app in the App Store, download the app, and learn how to play the game by herself. And I'm looking at this, and I'm astounded, shocked, and a little horrified, because I think it's wonderful that she was smart enough to do this, but my thought is, why don't you go out and play? They live in Oxnard. They live in this gorgeous community. They're by the beach. This child needs to go out and breathe fresh air. But I see a lot of kids where the parents are using the technology to babysit them, and I get worried with that.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot with some of my friends, and we say when we were kids, we would say bye to our moms and dads, and we would take off for the day, especially in summertime, and be gone until the streetlights came on, and that's just how you knew to get home. If the streetlights were on, it was time to be inside.
Yep.
But nowadays, it's so different.
It is. Now, part of it is because of the fear of what, there are predators out there, and it's not as safe a world as it was when we were children. But still, machines, I don't. It makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Xbox, right?
You know, and you see that when you go to the grocery store, you see little kids like 3 and 4 or 5 year olds holding cell phones,
Yep.
playing with them, and you wonder, geez, I mean, what can they get into?
Yeah.
So, all right, so for this module, you have a choice of 3 writing tasks to demonstrate your understanding of the issues regarding artificial intelligence and how you believe they affect our world today. See the next 3 pages to view them. So we'll look at the next page, and this is option 1. Elon Musk warns that artificial intelligence may be more dangerous to our world than nukes. What do you think about that statement? Why does Elon Musk have the ethos or qualifications to speak with authority on the subject, making such a statement? Further, what do you think the future holds for us in terms of artificial intelligence? So that's one option that you could write on. That's one prompt that you could use to write an essay. We have 2 more that you could choose from too. Option 2 is Robbie, author Isaac Asimov, tended to be a pessimist about humanity. Late in life, he allowed the possibility that humans might improve in the future, but still, he said, people tend to do things that harm humanity. Do you agree or disagree with Asimov's pessimism? Pessimism means you look at the world negatively. If the glass is half full of water, you say it's half empty rather than half full. So Asimov was a pessimist. Do you agree with his pessimism? Why or why not? What for Asimov makes robots a better breed than us? What for you makes us a better breed than robots? Write an argument that explains your response. The argument response should be a minimum of 4 paragraphs that first summarizes the current conversation as stated by either Asimov or Musk. The next 2 body paragraphs should present your claim and the reasons and support for that claim. Your conclusion should be your final statement about artificial intelligence. And so both of these first 2 essays are argument essays. And so did you want to say anything about those first 2 before we go on to the next one, Mrs. Campbell?
Well, you should have practice at this point with, I'm wondering, help me out, Mr. Short, did they do an argument? They haven't done an argument yet because it's literary. They did the literary analysis and then they did the prose poem. So I may need to, and actually I found one today because I had another student ask me for it. But what we'll do is I can put in fact, I think, did we add a video in Canvas on how to do the argument?
As far as I know, we haven't.
Okay, then I will need to add that. And I think what I'll do is once I get downstairs, and I'm going to share this with Chloe and Landon, and now we are joined by Damon. So what I can do is when I share this, then I can add at the bottom the video that shows how to write the argument essay. It's basically, you say what Musk says or Asimov, and then you talk about what you think is right or wrong about what they say, and then you offer your own opinion on it. So I'll make sure that you guys have a resource if you decide to choose either options 1 or 2. Okay?
Yeah, one of the things about an argument, you want to say what side you agree with, but you also have to show the other side and then undercut it, say why it's wrong. Mm-hmm. and deal with the other side, because it's like you're in a debate, and if you just say I'm right and never deal with your opponent's point of view and say how it's wrong, you'll lose the debate. You have to deal with both sides of the coin, say how your side of the coin is better and how the other side of the coin is not so good. And that's an important point to an argument essay. You'll see that in the video.
And actually, my freshmen are writing the gun control essay right now. So the outline that I had for them, I will share it with you guys, and you'll have that if you decide to do one of these two.
Great. And then the third option is to do a different kind of writing altogether. The third option is to write a dialogue. And a dialogue is when two or more people are talking. We're just asking for you to have three people in this dialogue. Write a dialogue. Imagine that Isaac Asimov, the author of I, Robot, and Elon Musk are having a discussion about AI in a podcast. Write the dialogue of that interview. Eric Brynjolfsson, the author of the Harvard Review article, will be the interviewer. So you have the interviewer, Eric Brynjolfsson, you have Isaac Asimov, and you have Elon Musk. Write the interview in such a way that demonstrates your understanding of all the information you have read thus far in the module concerning AI. There should be at least 5 questions. That's not a maximum, that's a minimum for Asimov and Musk to answer. There can be no yes or no questions, or those that can be answered with just yes or no. There has to be explanations given by Asimov and Musk as to the questions, and both Asimov and Musk must respond to those questions in a complete and thoughtful manner. A dialogue is a way to write what one character says to another, and the effect of dialogue is the speed of the document is increased, such that it usually takes less time to read dialogue than regular prose. So one way to write a dialogue is to do it as is done in a script. Simply write the name of the character followed by a colon, and then what the character says. So here's an example. Okay, so I'm going to be Asimov. You want to be Musk, Mrs. Campbell?
Yeah, I'll be Musk this time.
Okay. Artificial intelligence will rule the world someday.
That will be the death of society.
All the better.
How can you say that?
That's great. So that's kind of like how dialogue works. Okay? So I guess now's the point in time where I should ask if there are any questions that I can answer or that Mrs. Campbell can answer for Chloe and Landon.
And Damon is here. He just joined us.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
Questions about, okay. Remember that because the essay is due, and Mr. Short, can you look this up real quickly since I'm sharing your presentation? What did we put as our due date for this? Is it Monday?
Oh.
Or Sunday night?
On. Let me check. Hold on.
We forgot to mention that in the last session.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, I'll put that here. And this is...
Okay, submitting the draft is March 25th.
Okay, and that is the Monday?
Is Monday.
Okay, at 11:59?
I think so. Let me see.
Okay.
We have it down for 11:59. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first draft, and then you're going to get the peer review, and I will also tack on the instructions for how to find that peer review to this as well. That should be assigned on March 26th at 12. Is that correct?
Let me. Okay, peer review. Let me see. It's due on March 27th.
Okay, so
I'm
it is.
assuming that it's going to be assigned on the 26th.
Yeah, so it'll be signed March 26th at 12 a.m. And then it's due the next day. So just making sure you get those deadlines. And the number of the first draft is 3.5.3, correct?
Submitting the first draft is 3.4.1.
4.1, okay. So what you can do if you're a little bit behind is you can write in, and these are all my students. There's none of yours that have joined us, so I'll just go ahead and if you put in writing lab for every assignment that leads you up to 3.4.1, then later you can come back to those assignments and fill in the blanks to those. But if you don't turn in the draft on time, you're going to lose 15% of your grade. So you want to make sure that that gets turned in on time. The reason for that is that we do have the peer reviews. The peer reviews are an important way to interact with somebody else specifically about your writing, and it's one of the few ways that we can actually measure the listening and the speaking, even though you're not actually technically talking to them. So you want to make sure that you have that first draft turned in by March 25th. So if you're really far behind and you need to move forward, you can say writing lab. Then after you turn in that first draft, you're going to come back to those assignments and fill them in. And they may be, because you've written the draft, it may be easier for you to do those assignments. Okay? Any other questions that you have for us?
Okay. Well, thank you for everything, Chloe and Landon and
Damon.
Damon. Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you, Mrs. Campbell. And I'll see you tomorrow, Mrs. Campbell.
That's right, Cassandra Erkin. So both of us, well, we have no Mr. Short people here, but I'm going to a conference tomorrow, so my availability tomorrow is very limited. So yes. All right, I will see you. Thank you very much for leading this. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Okay.
All right.
And we'll get the video to you. Yes. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.